Hello there. Okay, I would like to look at another topic with you today and a question. And that question is, how can I multiply a number by a linear monomial? And maybe linear monomial sounds intimidating, but it's really not. Let's take a look at an example that we talked about in the past, and that would be the wages that you were earning at this job that you were working. And remember, it was $11 an hour was what you were making. Remember, this expression will help you predict how much money you will make either at the end of the day, at the end of a certain amount of hours. However many hours you work, you plug that in, and that's gonna predict for you how much you're gonna make at the end of the day, or at the end of 2 days or 3 days, whatever. Now your friend is like, wow, you're pretty skilled at what you do. I have a I found an employer who's going to pay you 3 times as much. He's going to pay you 3 times as much, which basically means that you're 3 times what you're making. So you're multiplying. Speaking of operations, let's take a look at some of the operations we see here. We see multiplication here, and multiplication here, and then we have parentheses here. Now, parentheses are like an emergency signal. They say, hey, something needs to be done inside me, and it needs to be done now, right now. It's emergency, right? So we look inside of the parentheses and we see an 11 and times x. Well, you know that from past videos, we can't really multiply 11 and x together and get something simpler. We're stuck. It's just 11 times x is 11x. So the parentheses tip, we can't really multiply, and therefore we can't do what's inside the parentheses. So we're kind of stuck on this end, right? But the question is, can we multiply a number and a monomial, a linear monomial? Now, a linear monomial is just made up of a coefficient times a variable. That's it. That's a linear monomial. A coefficient times a plain variable. There's your linear monomial. Ta-da! Okay. So the question again, can I multiply a number by a linear monomial? And the short answer is yes. And here's how. We're going to multiply number and coefficient. And then we're going to attach the variable. Okay. So back to our expression. Okay. Anytime an expression or a part of an expression tells you to multiply a bunch of things together, even if it's the parentheses that are telling you to multiply a bunch of stuff together, you can do this trick. And basically, all we're doing is we're taking 3 times 11, which gives us 33, tack on the variable x, and we're done. So we multiplied 3 times 11, tack on the x, right? And what does that tell us? What does this tell us? Well, what it tells us in our example is that 3 times what you're currently making per hour now equals $33 an hour. So now you're making 33 bucks an hour because you took the job. You said, heck yeah, making $11 an hour is great and all, but now I'm able to make 33 an hour. Let's look at another example. Just for fun. Okay. Back to black. We go through just a simple one, negative 3 times negative 4x. Now, I don't want to, in this example, it really explain like what this expression represents. It's more important at this point to understand just how to simplify the expression. And we do so the same way we did before. First of all, is this a linear monomial? Yes. Are we multiplying that linear monomial times a number? Yes. I don't see any addition or subtraction. This is all multiplication, just pure multiply. So let's do it. Multiply, going to blue this time. We're going to take negative 3 times negative 4. That's going to give us negative 12. Tack on the variable. There it is. Ta-da. Super easy. Let's talk about the number 1. Let's talk about the number 1 now. 1 times, oops. Hey. Okay, we got 1 times negative 2x, for example. Same thing. Multiply this by this. But here's the funny thing about multiplying by 1. 1 times a number is itself. Ta-da. So don't forget that. 1 times a number is just itself. And so 1 times negative 2 is still negative 2. Tack on the variable, and we're good. We're good to go. Let's look at the number 0. So how about 2x times 0? Well, 0 times anything is 0, right? Now, if we followed our rules, we could say 0 times 2 is 0, tack on the variable, and we can do that. But this is the one instance where, or one of the instances where 0 times x is just 0, because 0 times anything is 0. So that's the number 0. So and we'll work with that again, but we'll talk about those properties a little bit later. Now, something I didn't mention is that there is a special rule. There is a special rule in math, that allows us to multiply these two together. There's a special rule in math that lets us do that. And I'm not going to talk about it now, but later in the course we'll start talking like official rules and how come we're allowed to do stuff. But right now, all you need to know is when you have a linear monomial and a number, multiply the number and the coefficient together, tack on the variable, and you're done. Hope this helped you. I hope you have a great day.